Are you looking to take your personal finances to the next level? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not, with your host, Joseph Sangl.
Well, welcome to episode number 36 of the Monday Money Tip Podcast. My name is Joe Sangl. I'm excited to be the co-host along with my co-host, Megan Hibbard. How are you doing today, Megan?
Great.
You fired up to bring him episode number 26 on March 11th?
36.
Episode 36. What did I say?
26.
26. It's 36.
You're behind.
Good grief.
Behind the times.
Man, it's episode 36. We're weekly now. They're coming at you fast and furious. Instead of every other week like in 2018, it's every week in 2019. And again, we're featured on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Get fired up. We had YouTubes come down and film this. Tell everybody what we're talking about today.
Yes. Today we are talking about bite-sized debt. So we're going to be discussing how to make debt more manageable and create a plan of attack by breaking it down into bite-sized pieces.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
One of the big topics that everybody wants to know is, how do we pay off all of our debt? Is it even possible for me to become debt-free?
Yes.
Is it even possible to be debt-free, including my house?
Yes.
Is it possible to have no bills other than like food and just basic insurance? And
Yeah.
is it possible?
It is possible.
Oh, all right. Well, since we know it's possible, we'll continue on with episode number 36.
36.
Bite-sized debt. But first, it's that very special time of the podcast. You know what time it is. Let's go.
Now it's time to get caught up with our current money events.
This portion of the Monday Money Tip Podcast is sponsored by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. Utilize the Debt Freedom Date Calculator to determine when you'll be debt-free. It will provide vision for your future and fuel to power you forward to financial freedom. Visit the website at www.iwbnin.com, click on Tools, and select Debt to find all of our debt calculators. And the best part, all of our tools are free.
All of them are free. And since we're talking about debt through this whole episode today, I figured that today's current money events, we would focus. Don't you love that?
Yes.
That might have been my best ever. We should maybe record that and replace the bumper. Okay. But we're going to talk about payments in America. And this is something I love to update from time to time because it helps me understand what is happening. You know, the cost of things seem to go up, yet people keep buying more of them. So how does that happen? The payments grow bigger and the terms grow more extended. And so I wanted to share the median home mortgage payment of the latest statistic is $1,030 a month.
Shoo.
That's the median home mortgage payment in America. And the median means 50% of people's payment is below that, 50% of people's payment is above that. It's not the average.
Right.
It's the median. And so if you're paying a $3,000 a month payment because you live in a high cost area like the coast, like San Diego and San Francisco, Seattle, New York City, DC area, Orlando, Florida, maybe in some of the areas, West Palm Beach. Well, then you could maybe move to Anderson, South Carolina, and I promise you can get below $1,030 a month.
That's right.
And the average student loan payment is $393 a month. And there are 44.7 million Americans who have student loan payments.
Wow.
Woo!
That is a lot.
So think about that. 44.7 million Americans paying an average payment of $393 a month. The average car payment, which I shared in episode number 29, is $523 a month.
Okay.
Get fired up. And the average credit card payment, this is a tough number to find actually, because the rules for credit card companies is different. And they basically say you have to pay 2% of the balance. And some pay 2% plus 0.5% or 2% plus 1%. Others say it's 2% or a minimum payment of $25. This is a tough number to report on, but it's averaging nearly $200 by the best numbers we found. And we do know the average credit card interest rates hit a record in the last quarter to 17.55%. Woo! So if you add it up, if you have a home mortgage payment and you're an average household with a student loan payment $393, an average car payment of $523, average credit card payment $200, you add all that up and you're looking at about $2,300 a month in payments. That is a lot of money. And that is after tax income. After tax. So that means about $3,000 pre-tax earned income is disappearing solely to pay for these debts. And so the question I always like to ask people is, what would your life look like if you had none of that? And if you keep listening to this podcast and you employ and deploy the resources and tools and skills that we try to teach you, I promise you, you can become debt-free one day, and you will be listening to this podcast with great interest, particularly in the investing episodes. Get fired up.
That's right. And if you're one of those people that have the car payments of the $523 per month, we did just recently do an episode on how to never have a car payment. So maybe you should go back a couple and listen to that episode.
Yeah, that would be a great episode. That's awesome.
Yep.
You can be car payment free.
That's right.
Forever.
Okay. In our success stories segment, we're going to share Sheila's success story. And Sheila said, just completed session 1 of the group study, and I wanted to let you know what I found most helpful. In a word, everything. Actually, what really excited me and turned me on to the possibilities was something Joe himself told us when he visited New Hope, Oahu. So that's one of our partners that you guys have been to a couple
Hawaii.
times. Yeah. You've
Yes.
yet to take the rest of us, so we're a little bit bitter about that. So fingers crossed, maybe we'll get to go one year. Maybe. One can hope. That we can simply call the credit card company and have the interest rate reduced, which I did. Who would have thought? That emboldened me to walk into the Verizon store and have my cell phone bill reduced. That in turn has opened up all kinds of tantalizing possibilities. I'll be calling my insurance companies and cutting the fat from daily expenses and looking at different, more frugal ways to satisfy needs. It's amazing where you can find savings if you just try. That's a lot of it too.
That's so good.
Yeah. A lot of what I thought were needs turned into just be wants. I'm still in the process and I'm pumped. Who knew frugal could be so much fun? This is a former shopaholic, but no more. Otherwise, the most helpful thing I learned from session 1 of the study was that I needed to establish emergency savings before attacking debt. I always thought it was the other way around, hence could never get off the debt repayment go around. Thank you very much for that. I have to add this. After I got home, I slept 3 hours, then got up and couldn't wait to start my goals list, then budget. This was at 2 a.m. I'm pumped. Thanking the whole team for all the good you do. Sheila.
Woo! About makes me want to cry.
That's awesome.
You know, I love it. You know, Sheila's caught a vision.
Yes.
She's caught a vision of what her life could look like on the other side of the giant called debt. And she's got a glimpse of her dreams. And she said a statement in that story that says, if you'll just try.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to encourage each of the podcast listeners, hey, if you'll just try. If you'll just try. She said a word there called emboldened. It's a fun word. And emboldened means I feel empowered. I feel like I can do something I have not been able to do in the past. It's amazing what a few victories do. It's called the flywheel principle. It's the momentum principle. And it starts taking you places you never dreamed you could get to. So I just encourage each of you listening to the podcast today. It's Monday. I know that you can't wait till this releases and you listen to it the instant it releases on Monday. And I just want to tell you on this Monday, or if you maybe got around to it on a Thursday, do something today. One thing, and just test us and see if it works. Call that credit card, ask for lower interest rates, roll it to a 0% balance transfer card using one of our links on our website. Call your insurance company and ask for a better rate and a better deal. Ask your boss for a raise. Put together a budget, write down your plans, hopes, and dreams, and see what happens in your life. If you'll just try, you'll experience greatness.
And when you do, let us know which step you take and how it turns out. We'd love to hear.
Woo!
All right, so today, just to remind everybody, we're going to be discussing how to make debt more manageable and create a plan of attack by breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. So you ready?
Yes, it's time to bite-size it. I'm so excited to talk about this. This is a topic that's relevant to every single person, and debt is something that many people aspire to get rid of, yet they find themselves, with a broken down car and they need to replace it. They don't have the money. They find themselves in a pinch at the end of the month, and so they pull out the credit cards and they're like, I have a $3,000 balance. What does it matter to put $50 more on it? Well, it matters a lot. And they view their debt as an elephant, particularly the home mortgage, particularly a car they purchased recently, particularly their student loans. These are large debts, many times 5-digit debts sometimes 6-digit debts. And as a result, they view it as an elephant. And as Megan has already said, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. And sometimes you got to get some big bites. Sometimes there's gristle in that bite, but you got to take that bite and chew it up. And I like to view it like looking at David and the story of David and Goliath.
Yeah.
The reason little David, was able to take on the giant Goliath, someone who had intimidated all of his brothers and other leaders and warriors for weeks, was because David saw what was on the other side of the giant. He caught a vision of what life looked like when this giant was gone. He could see beyond the giant. Everybody else focused on just the giant. He had a vision of what was behind it, and therefore it allowed him to plow through Goliath. That same thing needs to take place with your finances, with debt. You have to take and look beyond the debt and say, what does life look like if you do not have this house payment, you do not have a student loan payment, you don't have a car payment, you don't have a credit card payment, furniture payment, you don't owe your mom or dad, that sort of thing. So let's talk about 5 things that you can do today to start making progress towards eating that elephant and making the debt leave. And the first thing is you have to put all of your debts onto the table. Now, what does it mean to put all of your debts on the table? It means that there are debts that many people have not paid. Like, did you know that, Megan? Some people are not paying on some of their debts.
I have heard rumors.
Can you imagine living that way? Would it stress you out to know
it would stress me
that you're getting calls at work?
Yeah.
But this is commonplace for many people.
Oh,
yeah. And you may be listening today and that's commonplace for you, and you've kind of, that number, so you decline that call, you ignore that email. But here's what I want you to know. You can't slay the dragon unless you see all the dragons. So you got to pull everything out of the closet. Go to that annualcreditreport.com. We'll have a link to it. That's where you can pull your free credit report once per year. And you can see all of your debts, including any ones that you are not paying on right now. And you have to be able to see all these debts because you cannot make progress unless you know how large the problem is. And the second one is you have to utilize your budget to maximize every single dollar you have. If you truly want to become debt-free and you want to be able to maximize every single dollar, you've got to use your budget. Episode number 35, the one that we just did the previous week, was about words that describe budgeting and how to apply this. But you've got to use this budget to maximize every single dollar, because by using a budget, you can maximize how much money can be applied toward debt. That's hugely important. So you got to pull all these debts out and stare at them all, put them all on the table. And I've got a large table in front of me here. If you want to watch this podcast, you can see us on YouTube. But you can see I've got a table. It's covered up with stuff. And many people have so many bills, they could not see the top of their table.
Right.
But you just got to look at them all, put them in order. And it starts bringing order to disorder and order to chaos. And it allows you to start to make progress. And then the third thing you have to do is you have to lower your interest to lowest interest rate possible, preferably 0%. This allows you to make huge progress. If you have high interest private student loans or you have high interest credit cards and you're paying on a balance every single month, I strongly urge you to do what Sheila did in our success story today, which is call your provider and ask for a lower rate. When they ask what rate you would like to have, be bold and ask for 0%. Right? And where do we keep a list of 0% balance transfer offers, Megan? Tell everybody.
Yeah, you can go to our website, and under next steps, you can click the drop down, and 0% balance transfer credit cards will be one of the options. And you can compare a bunch of them that we have there that we recommend.
Yeah. And so it's under our next steps area, and you'll just see it listed there, 0% balance transfer cards. And we'll have an explanation there that kind of explains how they work. But really, through 15 minutes of typing on the computer, and that's if you're typing with your toes, it'd be 15. Do you type with your toes very often?
I can't say that I do.
Be very odd. But even if we typed with our toes, in 15 minutes or less, you could type it in. And you won't save 15 minutes or less on car insurance, but you will save a lot of money on interest on your credit card balance. Even if you have just average credit, you can do that. And what this does is it allows you to have every single dollar that you've maximized in your budget to go towards that debt. And so these are huge. So putting all of your debts on the table and seeing it all, that seems obvious. That's clear. The second one is utilize your budget. Very few people utilize their budget on a monthly basis, except for our podcast listeners. Mm-hmm. And you can utilize that to maximize every dollar that's going to go towards debt. And then you're lowering your interest to 0% lowest interest possible. That means every dollar that you've maximized in your budget is minimizing principal balances. You're slaying the giant. And guess what? David brought 5 smooth stones to the giant, but only took one to knock him down. I always wondered where David put those other 4 stones. And what I found is that with this progress in your budget, that money you've maximized, you will be amazed at how swiftly you'll be able to pay off the debt, and you'll end up with extra money left over in the process, okay? So then the next thing that you need to do is to follow the I was broke, now I'm not ladder. To follow the I was broke, now I'm not ladder. Now, we have the ladder on a screen, and we will have a link to it there in the listening, in the email where you got sent a link, and it's also in the show notes. But if you go to iwasbrokenowimnot.com/ladder, you can download a copy of the ladder. Of course, you can buy my book, I Was Broke Now I'm Not, on Amazon as well, or through our store. But the ladder puts in order these decisions. And it's super important that you do these decisions in order. So, Megan, share with them rungs number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So listen to these rungs and try to figure out, have you achieved each of these rungs?
Sure. Rung number 1 is set goals. Rung number 2, save money. Start with 1 month of expenses. Rung number 3, invest enough to capture the full company match or $100 a month, whichever is greater. And then rung number 4, eliminate all non-house, non-business debt.
That's right. So where are you at on the ladder? So if you're on rung 0, you're on ground level or maybe below ground, then your first thing is to set your goals and build that emergency fund. You should pay minimum payments on all debt until you get up to rung number 4, which means you have your goals written down. You've got your minimum emergency fund of 1 month's worth of expenses, whatever that is for your family, and you've got that company match happening for your investment for retirement.
Right.
Anything extra, any extra money beyond that, that's rung 4, goes towards debt, your non-house, non-business debt. And we really recommend that you, once you get to rung 4, you utilize, this is the 5th thing, utilize the debt snowball technique. And we really like the debt snowball technique because the debt snowball technique allows you to be able to pay off debts in order. And we have a YouTube link that we'll link in the show notes as well. It's, in fact, our number 1 watched YouTube video. Did you know that? The debt snowball technique?
I did know that.
It is.
Yes.
I mean, we have had over 50,000 views of that video.
Yeah, it's a very popular video.
And it'll show you how the debt snowball works. And functionally, you pay minimum payments on all debts, except for which one, Megan?
Minimum payments except the one that's the lowest.
The smallest amount you owe. And use any available extra dollar because you're doing your budget every month.
Yep.
Every extra available dollar, you're on rung 4, you punch that smallest debt in the face. I mean, you'll hear me use kind of angry fighting terms because that I felt like I was in battle. It helped me. So really, I caught a vision, right?
You got your rear in gear.
So I got my rear in gear, and if I just decided to try.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoo! My credit card is going down, and my student loan I'm breaking up with Sally Mae, and this car I'm going to pay it off, and man, I'm gonna get rid of owing my parents. It's gonna be awesome. And it was amazing because it gave me great energy. And I used the debt snowball technique. So as I paid off that smallest debt, the money that I was applying to that each month went to the next smallest debt that remained. And so on and so forth. By the time I got done in my personal finances, now remember this was back in 2003-ish, 2002 through February of 2004 when I became debt-free, except for my house. I had $755 a month going to my student loans. And $755 a month back then was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money.
It's a lot of money right now, yeah.
But it allowed me to really punch out the rest of my debt. And I became debt-free in 14 months. It was awesome. I utilized some tax refunds and some bonuses from work to be able to do that and sold some stuff. But that debt snowball technique can really help you. The fifth one is to utilize debt payoff spectaculars. Debt payoff spectaculars. So we said that the title of this episode is what? Bite-sized debt. So when I heard somebody say, I'm eating this elephant one bite at a time, I'm killing my debt one bite at a time, it inspired me to create something called spectaculars. And so we have over 100 of these on our website where you can literally we've put little squares and images of different things people finance with debt. And you can say, this is what I owed. And there's a number of squares in there. And it tells you what each square is equal to. And it makes it visual. So in other words, I remember my first house, I think each square was something like $72.14, if I'm remembering right. And this house that I was trying to pay off had a full basement in it. And me and my bride, Jen, we wanted to finish the basement. It was awesome. We thought we'd put in this extra bedroom, put in a home office, have this TV area. It'd be awesome. And so we'd been saving money while we're on this debt freedom journey to be able to finish out the basement. And I remember I had my Sangl home payoff spectacular on my refrigerator. And you can imagine my little daughter, she was about 4 or 5 at the time. We would walk into the room and she would look at the thing and I would let her help me color in squares each month. I could color in 3 or 4 squares because, most of my payment was going to interest. And it was special, right? Yeah. So I'd let her color them in, and she's an artist, so she liked coloring them in. And I colored in our bathroom first and then our bedroom. And I kept telling her, the bank owns your room. And she was like, the bank owns my room. And I'm like, yes, you better behave or they'll come take it. Oh, so I don't know if that might have been wrong to do that. But I remember I really had this feeling that I told my daughter several times, the bank owns your room. And I realized this one Sunday morning, I was driving to church, and I remember, I don't know what it was that the preacher said that morning, but something in me just said, you know what? The right thing for you to do, if you're really going to go do this thing you're called to do, to go help people win with their money, what you need to do is not finish the basement. What you need to do is send that on to the mortgage company. And that would be enough that your daughter could color in her room. Oh. And I didn't remember anything else the preacher said that morning. I had a full-fledged hate rage feeling. I went home. I was numb because a dream I had of finishing the basement was dead. I knew I had to do this. And so I went and I wrote the largest check at that time to our mortgage company, and I let my daughter sit there and color in her whole room. Oh. And special. It was a very special moment, and it has really created a financial awareness in my daughter, who's now in college.
It's crazy.
And she has great financial confidence. And so I just want to say, when you make it visual, many people print out these payoff spectaculars, and we'll have a link in the show notes, or you can just go to iwasbrokenowimnot.com and click under Tools Spectaculars. And we call them spectaculars because it is spectacular what they do for your family. So print out one for each of the debts you're paying off, put them where you pay your bills, or put them on the refrigerator, and let your family join in coloring the squares. It makes something visual that otherwise is just numbers on a page. That's great. And so I encourage you to do that. It was very special for us.
Awesome. Well, our helpful tool and helpful tools, we actually have 2 today. The first one is, we talked about it, but the debt payoff spectaculars. So make sure you guys go check those out and download the one that fits your family. And then another one is a 0% balance transfer credit cards. So like Joe said, we'll have a link to those in our show notes as well, or you can go to our Next Steps tab and find those. And we have a key financial quote for today. Do you want to read it?
Yes. I say it, and I actually tweeted this recently, and it got quite a response, and that is, persistence is essential to accomplishment. Listen, if you want to become debt-free, that won't happen overnight. You can get in debt in an hour conversation at a car lot. You can get in debt with a small conversation at the college.
Yeah.
Getting out of debt is going to require persistence, and it is essential and necessary to accomplishment. You can do this, And these payoff spectaculars and following this process of getting all the debts on the table, utilizing your budget to maximize every dollar, getting that interest rate down to as low as possible, making sure you're on that rung number 4 of the ladder, and then utilize our debt snowball technique. Watch that little video. It's about 4 to 6 minutes. And you will see huge progress take place in your finances. And as you stick with this, we'll encourage you along the way with the Money Tip podcast. That persistence, before you know it, it's going to lead to great accomplishment.
Awesome. All right. Well, on our next episode, we're hitting kind of a hot topic. So you talk a lot about saving and investing, and this person is very interested to learn more. Can you share more about how you diversify your investments and what you're currently invested in?
Yes.
Ooh.
That's going to be great. I'm going to, in fact, it'll be right near that time of year in March when I release Joe's current investments.
That's right.
I know everybody can't wait for that.
So if you like today's episode, please help us get the podcast to others who could benefit. You could do this by quickly reviewing and rating our podcast, leaving us a review. And these ratings and reviews will help us in making our podcast better for other listeners. And don't forget, on the last Monday of the month, we're going to be answering your top money questions. So make sure you send those in to us, and you can email those at info@iwbnin.com, and you could be featured on the podcast. So make sure you send those in. And then if you implemented one of our tools or had a success story you want to share with us, also email that to us. We'd love to share that with you. So you can email that as well to info@iwbnin.com.
Awesome. My word of encouragement as we part from this podcast is that you can do this. I became debt-free in 14 months, except for my house. It took me 10 years and 1 month from the day I started my journey to pay off my house. The average family can become debt-free without the house in 12 to 36 months, just 1 to 3 years. We'll free up $500 to $1,250 a month. We want that to be your family, so that you can free up those dollars to go invest in your dreams and in all those other things that you have, both short-term and long-term, you really want to see accomplished with your life. You can do it. Make sure you employ that great thing called persistence, and we'll see you next week with the next episode of the podcast where we talk about investing. Get fired up.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit iwbnin.com. We'll catch you next time.